Well, hello and welcome. Um, I'm so happy that I can, first of all, do this live stream. Second of all, talk about my project. And third and not last, that you are here and we can discuss this together. I was thinking what I should stream about because I really want to train my I don't want to say like streaming skills, but like not educating, like talking about code and just like all in general explaining. Because I want to focus on this more. So this is my experience of learning how to do this stuff properly. So sorry if this is really rough, or I don't know, it's not really your cup of tea, but at the end of the day, we're all trying to learn here. So I'm so happy that I could do this. All right. For today's topic, I was thinking about talking about goober. As you might know, or you might not know, I have this project called Goober, which is a css-in-js library. Basically, you can define CSS in a way that's more maintainable, and at the end of the day, it's more sane, I would say, for someone who works with, like, I don't know, styling components and so on. So there's that. That's what I'm gonna be talking today. So I guess let's just get into it, and we'll just talk about a bunch of other stuff as well. All right, let me switch my scene. Boom, there you go. All right. Okay, so goober, you can find it on my GitHub profile. I'll just link it in the description after the stream as well. This started as actually just like me trying to understand how style components works. So the most popular, I would say, like, there are a bunch of popular libraries in this space, but I would say the most frequently used one are style components, emotion, and then there's like a whole other design frameworks. I'm saying design frameworks because those are like you got these components that you can work with, which are already designed, or I know they have like this theme that you can use and modify it in a way that's more like I don't know, like predefined, I would say, right? So you have the spacing in there, the fonts, the sizes, so on and so on. So so style components in emotion, I think that those were like my main inspiration, I would say, right? So you won't see something really different from those libraries. So you'll see basically just something which is similar in that area. But there is one difference that I like just put my teeth into and I didn't let go. And it bit me. It bit me sometimes because just having to do this whole thing or hold this functionality in just 1K, that's a lot less. So that was like my main motivation, learning about them and see how they work, and that's how it started basically. All right, so I have my motivation in here as well on GitHub, but I haven't had the chance before Goober to actually like go deep into style components and emotion and get dirty, so to speak, with them in terms of like pick them apart, see how they work, how they function, what's good, what's bad, right? Because everything has a pros and cons. So I just started. So I was having this project on the side that I wanted to use style components for it, but I was already using Preact, right? I was using Nest.js. That was like an early days project. an early Next.js project basically, and I pulled in style components, and when I saw the bundle size, I was like, oh man, so I have to pay like, I don't know, at that time it was like 12K for style components to be using it, and also Preact was at 3K. So we're talking gzip here, so it's like the down the wire transfer size, not the actual not the actual size, because that's basically what will impact the loading side. Downloading a bunch of scripts large in size. Yeah, so yeah, I was like scraping my head and I was saying, oh man, I wish there was like a simpler way. I mean, do I need everything in there? Like also like in the motion, which is really fragmented towards, in these packages that you can use or not use. And yeah, then you can get tree shaked or not. This is really depending on your build step actually. So, it might be like a question mark in there. And then I just slowly started to like, okay, how would I want it to work? How should it work? And I know, like, should I really go for it? Like, should I really build it? Because it was just for me at that time. I just needed to have something in there. So yeah, basically that was like my motivation, and that's why I started to work on it. Yeah, you can visit this later and go through the APIs and so on and so on. But basically, the main thing is the styled. So if you're using a JSX framework, so in my case, I heavily use Preact, and from time to time React, and also React Native recently, right? So the styled component is actually the one that the style function, is actually the one that's most interesting and has a lot of meaning to your components, because that's what makes them style, right? The main API for Goober is actually just you have to call the setup function to set the pragma, because I didn't want to like have a peer dependency of React or Preact or so on. So having the setup in there, actually this one inspired, having the setup function in there was actually something that I took away from Jason's HTM package. He's using bind in there, so actually if you want to use HTM, you have to bind it with the pragma method. So something similar in that area. I went with setup. So actually, if you want to use a JSX like React or Preact or whatever, you have to set up Goober to use that pragma. And recently, this API option basically made it so you can set up Goober with an auto prefixer, something that is useful and is still needed from time to time. And besides that, with the theme, let's just say like a theme function that would just return the value from a context. So all in all, I'm really happy with this decision of using setup and so on. But enough with this. I said enough with the API. You can watch later, and if you have questions, just shoot them up, because I love to talk about it. All right, there's something else I want to mention. So if you're not still sold on the idea of having css-in-js or so on, there are a bunch of other stuff that goes into writing actually CSS in JavaScript and so on. But Max Steinberg wrote this article about more than a year ago, like why he writes CSS in JavaScript. And you know what, this is like touches so many like bullet points that really resonated with my way of thinking about it. And I really love that he took the time to write this down and have this summary that whenever you're like like your trust in CSS-in-js is shaken, or it's not there, you can just go and read about it, and then you get that boost one more time, and you can go and you can go at it. All right, so with every implementation or re-implementation of something, there are like drawbacks, right? And also like gains. So if someone would like, just like ask me just straight, what's the benefit of using goober versus style component? It's, I would like just turn the question around, and why are you asking that? Is it because you want to save some bytes basically, or what's the question? Because there are like really big, I would say like important trade-offs when you're speaking about the library that tries to maintain the limit of 1K versus other ones that do not have that limit, right? Even though they try to be small, but yeah, over time they grow or they shrink depending on the evolution of their internal API. So with goober, I'm always gonna be keeping it at around 1K. I changed that wording, like instead of under 1K, it's gonna be around 1K. Why? Because it's gonna be go up like 100 bytes or down 100 bytes from time to time, and also like it's tree shakeable. So if you don't use something, you won't get that stuff in your bundle and so on and so on. But everyone is leveraging that. But just like to be like upfront with it. All right, so I'm using the Bundlephobia web extension to like whenever you're on a package, you can just snoop in and see what the size is. There, I think. Oh no. Yeah, no, on npm. Yeah, on npm you can actually like go in and see the size of a package, but I think it's called unpack size. Unpack size. So that means developer dependencies, peer dependencies, and with the dependency as well. So, but Bundlephobia web extension works on npm as well, so it's fine. Anyway, so when we're talking about size, it's really relative, right? So you have to think about what the size mean for a JavaScript library. So in our case, in goober's case, especially like for 2G or Edge, the time that it takes to download goober, so that means just to download it, it's 36 milliseconds. So that means around 2 frames. So a frame takes 16.6 milliseconds and so on, which is really great, but we're talking about the execution frames. So this is really quick, right? And also like on 3G or, let's just say like spotty connectivity, that's going to be 22 milliseconds, which is really small. I really like Bundlephobia. If you like, just go and visit the package. It tells you a bunch of other informations like the similar packages in the ecosystem. So for like, I don't know, so in this case style components, and it just tells you the size that Bundlephobia could deduce from the building process. So style components, it's 11 times 11-ish, right, larger. JSS, it's 6.1 larger, and emotion as well, but emotion is just like the core package, so you don't get the style one, I guess, I'm thinking. And Linaria, this is really funny because Linaria is actually like the no runtime size, so you don't get runtime size, because what Linaria does, you can use the style API and at build time, so you have to use Webpack, for example. I'm not sure if they support something else, but they might be. It's been a while. So at build time, you get those CSS extracted in a separate CSS file, and so on and so on, which is a benefit as well, right? So again, gains and trade-offs all around the place. Yeah. So when after I finished the initial version, and I took some time to polish it, and I worked on it, and I tried to build integrations and so on and so on. I started to question myself. All right, so you're using a 1K styled library, but is it written in a way that it's actually comparable at performance with the other ones, right? Because you won't want to use a library that's actually performing poor in terms of speed, updates, and so on and so on. So I started to look around to see what benchmarks I could use to just to get a glimpse of okay, is goober fast enough? Should people use it, or should I use it continuously in my projects? For example, right now at work, I'm using Goober. So at work we have this idea of having one central or shared code repository, and then build three or four platforms or channels out of it. So we have the React Native side, meaning Android and iOS, which are 100% shared throughout the code base, and then we have the web, which also shares 100% the code base. So with the web, you also have the desktop, and you have to think about it and so on. But anyway, because again, I'm all about sizes, and I really don't like bloat, right? So I'm always looking to 3 more bytes, or just shave the size and so on. So what I did was, for the web, I'm actually rendering the React Native styles with Goober in a way that I could just give Goober control over them. So that just made me realize that, oh my god, man, Goober is actually powerful in that way. But it's not just Goober. Basically, you're gonna have to, I think you can do this with any package, but the fact that Goober is just 1K, I could use it anywhere, because at the end of the day, I do care about the size, but using it everywhere means I gain a lot of size at the end of the day, and that size particularly I could use it to do something else with it. So with that being said, I also to try to benchmark it, right? So we're gonna be benchmarking the browser as well, just in a minute. But I just want to talk about the server-side rendering benchmark. So I have this test, it's in benchmarks folder. Let me just quickly go into it. Where's the benchmarks? Okay, there we go. And in here I have this perf.js file, right? And first of all, let me just talk about it. And in this file, I'm actually just grabbing style components and emotion, and all 3 of them, and Goober as well. And all 3 of them I'm actually running the same object of styles, and have the benchmark.js cases for each one of them. If you look into the file, basically it's this stuff, right? So we have the inner function, because you can pass a function instead of an object, a function that returns an object, right? And that function is going to be executed, and so on and so on. So I have this counter in here, which is actually just, I think, a math random. Is it? Yeah, it's a math random. So that means the caching, it's gonna get busted depending on the math random stuff. So this does take into consideration the fact that, all right, some things are not going to be the same as the previous run and so on. So that does have an impact at the end of the result. But anyway, so I have this render component utility that you just passed in the style component, and then I think I'm using React, yeah, and then React and render to string. Yep, that's right. And then React actually, I'm just creating the element, I'm just passing the counter, which is the math random stuff. And depending on that one, I don't care about the output. I just care about how long it takes for that component to be rendered. I mean, yeah, sure, it takes a while for React to create the component. Sorry, it doesn't take a while. I mean, it takes time, but not that much, right? So under 1 milliseconds or whatever. It's I think we can like successfully omit the value and just take into consideration like not being there. So I feel like this is like a strong test case, but it's not. And why it's not is because benchmark.js is not that stable in its like in the runner sense. You'll get like, depending on the machine you're running, you're gonna get so different results. So I'm really considering like removing this whole thing in here and just like not have it. So for example, at the time when I wrote this perf.js test, the fastest was goober, right? And I was like, I couldn't believe it, because goober does stuff in a way which is really minimal to retain the size, but I was like, man, how could goober like be faster than, I don't know, like emotion and style components? And it turns out it wasn't. Like next morning, I ran again the perf.js, and emotion was the fastest. And also, like, keep in mind that this is actually testing just the server-side rendering. String doesn't test anything else. So it makes sense for goober to be faster on server-side rendering, because on goober, on server, we're not appending, or we're not creating a virtual elements like a style sheet or anything like that. Yeah, no. On goober, on server side, we're having an object with a data property on it, and that data property is getting updated. The thing why it's working like that is because on the client side, goober as well updates just a data property on a text node inside the style tag. Yeah, also, like I did a talk at React Day Berlin last year, I think last December, about goober, and I'm not sure if I had enough time to go into more details about it, but if people are interested, I'll definitely like do another one, like more in depth, or so on and so on. But yeah, as I said, let's just do the browser benchmarks. So to do the browser benchmark, I'm actually using the style components benchmark. Let's just say project. It's a great project. I feel like the benchmarks in there are actually the ones that are really testing the hell out of a style component library or whatnot. And I really believe that having goober tested amongst the other ones is actually a good thing. And at the end of the day, that's what it takes to like be like a css-in-js library. So let me just run the build for the benchmark. Yeah, so to add goober in here, they really did a great job of having this app. This app is actually being rendered with the React Native web, right? So it's a React Native basically, and the implementations for to like render the whole thing, because I think there are like 3 cases that you have to take into consideration. So anyway, so you have to define like this box, right? So we have the style from goober, which is a view. The view actually here, it's being extended with another style, so that means you're gonna get 2 classes on the box component. So depending on the props, you're setting this or this or the other ones, and so on and so on. And then you have the dot. You'll see in a moment what dot means. Again, which is a view, which is an extended view with some, enhanced styling and so on and so on. And also has the border button color as a inline style property. I think this is something that the React Native needs. The provider is just a view, and then this is like the view that's being used everywhere, right? It's being reused, which is a div. Now, if we would look to implementations like side by side, actually, let me just, boop. Yeah. So you can see it's the same thing, more or less. The difference in Goober is that, to have the small size or the small footprint, I cannot have all the valid HTML elements in there. So there is though a Babel plugin that takes care of that. So you can install that one, and if you want, you can just write the dot syntax if actually calling styled with the element that you want it's too much, or you already have existing components that you just wanna not have to refactor. You can go ahead and download this Babel plugin. I bet you already have some Babel stuff in there, so you're good to go in that regard. Yeah, this is the style thing. Yeah, so if you look side by side, the differences are not much. Like, it's the same thing over and over again. Let's see the box component. I've done this a while ago, so there must be some differences. Oh, actually no, they're the same. So besides the style import, everything else is pretty much the same, right? The style, the view. Yeah, this is fun. I'm not sure why it's not colored. Maybe the typings. So, but what's different though? I'm wondering now. Oh, yeah, the dot. All right, so this one was, this is the different thing, I would say, right? So style components has this dot attributes thing on the style, which means you can return custom props that will be inline on the component. So basically this, what I did in here, right? So you can just export from one definition, you can just export the component directly. Yeah, so Goober doesn't have that. So the solution was that, export a default function, render the dot, and just, grab the color that's coming from the props, yeah, and just set it as a border button color. It's the same result at the end of the day. Yeah, so I think that's the different part in there. Anyway, enough chit chat. The build has done. Let's just run the test. So they have this index HTML, which imports the bundle, which is actually compiled already. So I can just copy that path, paste it in my browser, and just have a go at it. So the benchmark that's being run right now is the mount dip3. You can there, besides the implementation folder, there's another app folder which has all the tests defined in there. So that's why they expect or is expected for each implementation to have, I know, the same stuff in there. So yeah, that was Goober. So Goober at for the mount dip3 is at 11.71 milliseconds. I think this is as well a benchmark JS, but this is run in the browser, so that means everyone gets the same treatment, more or less, right? emotion, React JSS, yeah, sure. Also, like having these benchmarks is just like a sanity check, you know. Whenever I'm working on goober, or I don't know, like anything, I'm always quickly coming in here and you know, just like just like verify that my changes have not, I don't know, like dumped the performance at all, and so on and so on. So it's really nice to have them, and I'm so happy for the style components team that they managed to write this awesome thing in here. Right, so this is style components v5, and I wanted to run style.jsx. So style.jsx is actually Next.js version for the style component, for the styling, or for css-in-js. It's not style component. So basically you write inside the styled tag, you write your styles, and then you get them scoped to your component file, basically. Yeah, which is, you know, something that people would, I don't know, be familiar with, like coming from you, or just plain like let's just say JavaScript, where if you're using BAM or stuff like that, then yeah. All right, so this is the mount div tree. So you can see the style components, v5 and goober are the closest ones. I mean, we're talking about 4 milliseconds in here, so it's not like, you know, well, so much big difference. As I said, the drawback, it's not going to be on execution times, even though at some maybe on some regard it is, but in this case it's not going to be. All right, and then is the mount YD tree. Yep. As I said, it took me a while. I mean, it didn't took me that much time, but it took me a few tries to make goober be in place. I mean, be as fast as it is today, right? That means a lot of trial and error, figuring out why some things are faster and why they're not. So for example, before having this benchmark, goober was eating memory like peanut butter and jelly, so to speak. I hadn't had any caching at all. Like, you know, like to just bypass some of the class name generation and updating the style tag and so on and so on. So just by adding that cache in there, like, you know, just a simple like key values thing, it's actually just an object, I guess. Goober was like, wow, really far behind. But you know, lesson learned. So that was the only thing that I, you know, just like had to improve on. All right, so this is the mount white 3. So style component, and then style component and style.jsx. All right. So again, style components and goober, and also like emotion, right? And React JSS and style.jsx is gonna be there as well. Yeah. So we're talking about 20 milliseconds, and the difference between implementation is gonna be like 5 or 6 milliseconds. That's really like small amount of time. All right, and the next one is the update dynamic styles. So this is actually the dot component that you're seeing here, the one that has the inline style. So the colors that you see there, like updating or glittering or whatever, is actually the border button color, which is being updated inline and so on. I think this one is used to make sure that the updating of the inline styles is being done fast enough. again, all over the place, good benchmarks. Yeah, man, I mean, I really love that. That's why, like, I gave up on the perf.js stuff. I was like, man, why do I even bother, right? Yes, the React.js, because this is actually testing every corner that the you know, a style library would run into. So yeah, really love this one. Okay, so now it's React.js. So you can see it's 5. So emotion was like 4. So the style components in there, god damn it. The style components in here, I don't know why it breaks the implementation. There's like an error in the console, but I didn't have time to look into it. Okay, style.jsx. Let's just test that one. We'll test style components and then goober one more time, just to make sure. Okay, now we're talking about style components. Oh man, but this is not the test. Okay. Yeah, goober. Let's just run goober. We're just gonna do goober, style components, and React and style.jsx, and that's gonna be it. Yep. All right. V5. Yep. Oh, style components is like 3.98. This is really interesting. Yeah. I know style components has like, you know, almost like the best, but the caching solution is really great. So updating the dynamic styles is actually a piece of cake. Yeah. So yeah, these are the benchmarks. Not bad, right? I mean, most of the popular choices are right there. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the benchmarks. There's not much else to it. And I think that was it for today. So, you know, if you have questions about Goober, you know, just want to reach out and, you know, like, just give me some feedback on my mistakes. Like, I bet, like, I was blindsided, or I don't know, I wasn't just like that thorough with some of them. So it's fine. We're all learning in life. So yeah, just hit me up if you have questions. I don't know, like recommendations, things that I should be improving on. Yeah, why not? I'm planning to do more of this stuff. Today wasn't that much about coding, but it was like just about like introducing Goober and giving a chance to the world to react to it, or I don't know, just have a feeling about it. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, and I hope I'll see you next time. All right. Cheers. Have a nice one.